What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training. Today we're going to be breaking down if quarterbacks should throw sidearm. So we're going to be talking about a good example of throwing sidearm, when you guys actually should change up that arm angle, change that arm slot, if you will, and then a bad example of when you don't want to throw sidearm. So I hope this video helps you guys out. I hope it teaches you a few things and clears up this kind of hot topic in the quarterback space. But also, fellas, if you're a quarterback and you would like to train with us this offseason, we are coming out to 3 more locations for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camp. So next up, we were traveling out to Nashville, Tennessee. Then we're heading out to Salt Lake City, Utah. And then we're finishing it off the tour in Los Angeles, California. So if you guys are local to one of those cities, would like to travel out, we'd love to have out some of our members from our YouTube community. So check out that very first link in the description below. We really appreciate it, fellas. Let's get started. So obviously, everybody loves to talk about this arm angle throw nowadays. You get a lot of trainers on social media posting the cool videos, the cool clips, throwing around trash cans, whatever it might be. And there's a time for it and there's a time not for it. So obviously Patrick Mahomes is the guy who kind of made this real popular, right? He's got these crazy arm angle throws, but the times when he uses this, because we're going to show an example of him, an example of Tom Brady and PJ Walker. All 3 guys who are at very different stages and very different athletes using this arm angle, but they only use it when they have to. So obviously we show Mahomes right here. He's throwing this thing on the run. He's throwing this ball back across the field, so he's changing up the arm angle, right? Because he has to fit this thing into a window and a throw behind him around defenders. Now we look at the next example. This is PJ Walker. He's got a route coming over the middle of the field, and he's got a defender right here, so he changes up the arm angle to throw around a defender, which is completely fine, and that's a completely correct situation to do so. And then we have Tom Brady on the run trying to throw around a defender, and that is when he also changes up that arm angle, when he is obviously an advocate or by kind of a good example of having a higher release point, because he naturally does. Now I'm going to show you guys a clip of a quarterback in high school at a camp of the bad sidearm example. So changing up that arm angle, changing up your arm slot is something that I don't believe in you should focus on. We have so much to worry about as a quarterback. We have to worry about my drop. We have to worry about my hips, my weight transfer, reading a defense. So your arm slot is something that happens naturally. But when you don't have an efficient release point, that is when there is an issue. So this QB, when he hitches up to throw, he comes across his frame. He never gets to extension, which is what changing up that arm angle is all about. So when he goes to throw, obviously his QBs, it starts from the lower half, which affects the release point. And I want to talk about that. So when you guys throw, obviously, where are we trying to rotate from? We were trying to rotate from my hips. I'm trying to transfer weight from my lower half. I'm trying to get that weight from my back leg to my front leg so my hips can rotate through. But when I don't do that, so this QB ends up taking a very long stride. So that foot strikes outside of his frame. When your guys' feet, you could try it right now. If you stand up and your feet are super wide, you can't rotate at your hips. Your hips lock out. So as a quarterback, when I get to this position, the only source of power that you have, because we're rotational athletes, we're going to rotate one way or the other, is from your front side. You having a disciplined front side is the key to having torque and a consistent release point. Now, QBs, you want to think of your body like it's split down a midline. Whatever your front side does, the throwing side's going to do. So where a lot of the sidearm throws that happen, which is the bad kind of sidearm, not the arm angle throw, is from your front shoulder ripping open to the left due to lack of hip rotation. If you're not rotating at your hips and you're not transferring weight, your front side rotates because that's the only way you're going to be able to throw with power. A lot of young guys have this problem because I don't even believe in quarterbacks under the age of maybe 12 years old trying to throw the ball as hard as they can. You're just falling into bad habits because you're not strong enough. So what he ends up doing right here is you see how his upper half swings out. He's leaning out of the throw this way. And so his arm flies. So a lot of people give a lot of quarterback coaches flack for talking about this position right here. They say, oh, you should never try to change up the arm angle because some idiot on Instagram said so. When you guys have your arm fly out like this and it's outside of your frame, you physically can't get to extension. Your arm is coming across your frame. So when your arm comes across your frame, you cannot flick the wrist, you cannot snap the wrist, and you're not getting to extension. Therefore, the flight path of the ball is affected and you will miss left to right because your arm is flying outside of your frame. Look at how this QB's finishing. He's finishing around his body. And I'm not trying to knock on this QB. There are thousands of quarterbacks that have this exact same problem due to lack of rotational force and rotation from their hips. That's why the arm comes across like this. So what he could have done to fix this is get his hips a little bit more involved. If he would have taken taking a quicker stride and his hips would rotate, he could stay level with the front shoulder. So a lot of quarterback coaches make the mistake of, oh, well, your front side's swinging out of there, so just, hey, correct it, keep your shoulders level and hips level, and try to keep your head straight down the line. But if you don't have hip rotation because you're overstriding and you think about your shoulders staying level and not leaning out of there, you're going to have no power on the ball. It is about keeping the shoulders level and the hips parallel to the target, which will get your release point there only if you have correct hip rotation and weight transfer. So now let's look at the other examples here from these other quarterbacks, because what they do is they change up the arm angle naturally. Their natural release point is not outside their frame like this. So let's look at the PJ Walker one first, because I think this is probably the best example. So when he goes to throw, he does not, I guarantee you right now, he is not thinking about, okay, I'm gonna change up my arm and throw sidearm. He is thinking about just, hey, I'm gonna throw around a defender. That's all he's worried about. But he keeps the front side square so he can get to extension instead of coming around his body. It is all about the release. When you guys come across your frame, that is when we miss left to right. We want to snap at the target. So when he goes to throw, you see how he's here, but what does his front side do? His front side stays level. His shoulders and hips stay square, and that's when he changes up the arm angle. And now look at his release. You see how he extends and he snaps down. It's not coming across his body like the last QB. That is the key, fellas. Now, how many of you have probably had a QB coach say, oh, why you ask, hey, coach, why am I not spinning the ball? Why is the nose of the football when I throw a deep ball not turning over? And they'll say, oh, man, you just got to snap your wrist. You just have to flick your wrist. What does that even mean? That doesn't mean anything. That means that your front side is probably bailing out of there. Because I guarantee you the QB that we showed before, due to this release point right here, this is why the nose of the football did not turn over. The nose of the football is going to have that sideways finish that a lot of you guys probably have, and a lot of quarterbacks have that problem. And it is not because he's not flicking his wrist. It's because his front side's swinging open, so his arm comes across his body. So in this example here, the nose of the ball will spin because we're able to snap due to the front side and the shoulders and the hips staying square, not letting his front shoulder swing open and lean out with his head. Fellas, it is all about staying disciplined with the front side. So if we change up the arm angle, I can get to extension. Sidearm is not good when you have an undisciplined front side. That is not changing up your arm slot, your arm angle, all the fancy words that people say to try to sound smart. It is from staying square, and when you have to throw around a defender, that is when the time to change the arm slot is. Now let's look at the Patrick Mahomes example, because everybody loves to use the excuse that like, oh, well, he's just a freak. And maybe he is, but that's why I show different guys who aren't labeled in that like freak category like him. So when he goes to throw, his front arm is dropping, right? But look at his shoulders and his hips. They do not move. Shoulders and hips stay square to the throw. He is just trying to throw around a defender. Fellas, if you have a disciplined front side, there isn't an arm angle that you can't make. You could have a more traditional, you could have that like 3/4 that everybody loves to talk about, and you could flat out throw around a defender, but you have to stay disciplined with the front side to do so. Do not be that guy that is trying to look cool because they saw some coach talking about changing up arm slots and they start swinging the front side out of there to do it. Stay disciplined. Stay square. Trust your hands. It is about the hands. It's like a baseball player. When you see a second baseman flip and turn two, that front side isn't swinging open to do so. He's flipping and turning two, staying square, and it's his hands that he is trusting. That's what you want. Now I'm going to show this Brady clip because, again, probably not the most athletic quarterback in the world, but look at his front side when he makes this throw. Stays completely parallel to that target. He's not swinging open, and you see how his arm, he's able to get to extension. You see how he extends his release point right here? That is where we want to get to, fellas. If you change up that arm slot, if you change up that arm angle, you better be getting to extension because your front side is not swinging open. Do not try to be too fancy and swing the arm open for no reason and swing your front shoulder. You have to get to extension. I don't even care either. Like if you have a quarterback and his release point is naturally maybe a little bit wider, I would just make sure that you correct his front side. If you're a coach, like Let's correct this front side. His release point will naturally probably correct itself a little bit to where it's not super wide, but it's all about extension and him not coming across his frame. That is the main key. So I hope this makes sense, fellas. I hope this helps you guys out because I know a lot of people ask about this. A lot of people have a lot of strong opinions on this, but that's the end of the day, the keys. Staying square with the front side, getting to extension, and not swinging open due to lack of hip rotation and that arm coming across your body. All right, fellas, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. Always great to hear from you guys as usual. And again, fellas, if you'd like to get some work in with us, we are coming out to Nashville, Salt Lake City, and Los Angeles for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camp. So check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.